Hey guys, this is Craig Migliaccio from AEC Service Tech, and today what we're going over are the 10 most common leak point locations on air conditioning and heat pump systems. So we're going to be using our ultrasonic leak detector to listen for the turbulent escaping gas exiting the tubing in the different leak point locations. So this listens for the noise regardless of whether it's nitrogen pressure test or it's R410A or R22 gas. No matter what the refrigerant is, it's still going to be able to hear that noise. We're also going to be using our anti-corrosive bubble leak detector. Once we pinpoint that location, we're going to be able to look at the foaming action or the bubbles that form at that spot. Problem number one is a leaky Schrader valve, otherwise known as a valve core, in the outdoor unit port. Now, it gets blamed a lot as this being the problem when there's actually a bad problem in the system with a tubing leak or something like that, but sometimes this is the actual issue. And so you could have a plastic cap like this, maybe without an O-ring, or the plastic is cracked and then this isn't sealing well. So the cap is there as a protector. You know, a cap like this would hold pressure in, and this is a brass cap with the O-ring, and then here you have a flared cap. And so you have a drop of refrigerant oil on the inside of the flare, and then you just go ahead and tighten this down, and that would seal up even if that valve core was leaking, but maybe you don't even have caps at all. You know, so to test this, we have a little hole drilled in an end cap, and the whole point of this is that we're trying not to get the bubble leak detector into the valve core area so we don't have to blow it out later. And so you can see the bubble forming right there. There's no other leak on the entire system that's this easy to find, and so that's why you need that ultrasonic leak detector to find the rest. Problem number two is when you have a leak at the indoor evaporator coil and it's where the tubing goes through the galvanized tin at. As you can see, this galvanized tin is extremely rusty and you have a dissimilar metal there and just all that rusting, so I'm going to show you how to find your problem with the ultrasonic leak detector. So it's already on, and you don't have to do this real slowly. You hear all that racket happening right there? So right there's our leak, and you can hear the noise. You'd be surprised at how small this leak actually is. We'll put a little bit of bubble leak detector right on the bottom, and we're just going to wait for a sec here. Let me just get some of the excess off. And we're just waiting because that leak is that small. You may see a little bit of foaming right below the copper tube, right here. That's our leak. That's how small it is, and that ultrasonic leak detector really picks it up and makes a loud noise just from that. It's been about a minute, and you can see that our foaming action has grown, and that's what you do. You just take the ultrasonic leak detector across the whole coil, and then if you find a spot, then you can go ahead and put your bubble leak detector on, and then you can see the exact location. This is problem number three, and it's the joints where the tubing goes in at. However, the joints that have a bad swage, such as these right here, where it's just going right into the tube, these are real susceptible to having a problem. So we're going to go ahead and turn our leak detector on. You can hear, it sounds like a storm. So right there, those are fairly large leaks. Let's go ahead and put the leak detector on, the bubble leak detector. So you can see the bubbles are growing, the large amount of bubbles that are forming here, and the foaming action. So you can see that these two are leaking right here. So a lot of problems occur at the indoor evaporator coil. So you really want to pay attention once you open that indoor coil up. Problem number four is the distributor tubes at the evaporator coil. So whether they're rubbing up against each other or where the tubes go into the 3/8 tubes, this joint is not a very good one. So a lot of times they leak at that spot right there. So you see we got something right there. Now let's move it up the coil just to make sure. So nothing up here, but we do have a problem down here. Problem number 5, and this is the last one at the indoor evaporator coil, is if you have a leak in the middle of the tubing. And you're going to ask yourself, hey, why would it possibly be in the middle of the tubing run where the fins are? And the reason is that in some cases they made the copper tube too energy efficient as far as the energy transfer, meaning they made the actual tube too small. As well, the other issue is they have a grain inside the tubing that runs this way. So I'm going to show you what that looks like right here. I hope you can see that. I cut an elbow off, and you see that they increased the surface area by putting these grooves on the inside of the tubing. And in this one, it's happening in a circular fashion. In other ones, it's actually just straight, straight down the tubing run. You can even make out some of it right here. But as well, the other thing I want you to notice is the tubing is extremely thin. So very, very thin, and that's for energy transfer. However, the problem is that it ends up causing leaks. Now I'm going to take you over to a leak I found in the middle of the evaporator coil with the ultrasonic leak detector. Problem number 6 is at the service valves. If these were overheated when they were installed, maybe they had the torch too close or something like that, maybe the O-ring on the inside is partially melted or burnt, and right here at the top the refrigerant's leaking out. Now there's just a rim in here, there's not just a flare, so sometimes you end up having a leak coming out of the top. Even when you tighten this down, and you put oil on it, so depending on the cap, sometimes it'll actually leak up through the cap. So that's something that you want to look out for. This is problem number 7, and on microchannel coils, we shouldn't be installing these near salt water, near the coasts. That will be very bad. This thin aluminum just breaks right down, and you have refrigerant leaks fairly quickly. So I'm going to go ahead and show you where this leak is. So it's right there. We're going to go ahead and put bubble leak detector on this side and on the other side, and we'll see if the bubbles form. The thing is, you're not going to be covering the entire coil with bubble leak detector. You need to be able to find this stuff with some type of electronic leak detector, and I really prefer the ultrasonic leak detector in order to do that. Now I'm going to put bubble leak detector on the other side as well. I'll take you in for a closer look, but you can see the bubbles are forming right there. Just in case you were wondering what this is, you see the 2 little channels for the refrigerant to run into. The whole point is that you don't use that much refrigerant when you're doing your energy transfer. However, you can see what happens over time, at least being in the salt air. Problem number 8 is the filter dryer. A lot of technicians install the filter dryer outside, and when they braze on both sides here, the paint gets burnt, and then that is an area where you have exposed steel, and then that ends up rusting and then eventually ends up rotting. So this metal right here is not very thick, and so that's a potential leak spot that you really want to be aware of. So a lot of times I install these inside. However, I also live near the ocean, and so anything like this that's steel outside is just completely prone to being a bad leak spot. Problem number 9 is the accumulator tank. So once again, this tank is a very thin metal, and it's installed in the outdoor unit, so the compressor case is a lot thicker. You usually don't have any problem with that rotting or rusting, and especially due to the high pressure at the compressor, it's fairly thick, but the accumulator tank is pretty thin. And so right here up at the top and also at the bottom are potential leak spots, especially at the bottom where you have leaves and things like that are in the bottom of the outdoor unit. And then you have all that just sitting there, and then all it has to do is break through the paint, and then from then on you have just a bad leak area just due to the steel that's there. Of course, you know, you could clean this and try to just seal that before you have any type of rusting occurring. You know, maybe you use wheel well paint or plasti dip or something like that. But this is a definite area where you want to go ahead and check for leaks at. Also, I want to point out that the accumulator tank is normally found on outdoor unit heat pumps, and so it's not really found on air conditioning systems unless these were field installed by a technician. So you really want to just be aware of this on the heat pumps. And then also there's something that looks like a filter dryer in a heat pump, but it's called the muffler, and it's on the discharge gas off the compressor. So it's something that looks like a filter dryer, but it's not. So that's another possible leak location that you want to be aware of. Problem number 10 is at the outdoor condenser coil at the bottom tube. So any of the bottom tubes down there, a lot of times there's leaves and things that get stuck on the inside, and basically it's just rotting the tubing on the bottom. So what I usually do, you see it's wet down here, I usually hose down the outdoor condenser coil, or I use a pump sprayer. And when I'm leak checking at the evaporator coil, I tend to not do anything because the evaporator coil is already usually wet. And so it helps when you wet the coil when you're finding leaks with an ultrasonic leak detector, and I'm going to show you what I mean right here. But when you turn the system off, that just helps as well. You have the oil that's slung throughout the inside of the tubing, and the oil is there, and the gas has to go push through the oil in order to escape through the tube, and that makes a turbulent noise. Also, on the outside of the tubing, if you have water on the outside of the tubing, it also helps to make a turbulent noise. So we are about 1 foot away, the tip is about 1 foot away from the outdoor coil, and we can hear it pretty clearly. We can hear the noise, and you can see that we're up at a level of 8 right now. And here we are right here. You see that we have a problem right down there. So right now that tip is about 1.5 feet away from that unit. All right, now I'm going to take this screw off and show you what the problem is. It's actually pretty small. Hear that noise? It's kind of like a swirling noise. That's the gas pushing through the oil on the inside and through the water on the outside of the tube. So that helps to make the noise that the ultrasonic leak detector picks up. So we're going to put some bubble leak detector on that tube, and now you can see the bubbles forming. This one happens to be aluminum, but regardless of whether it's copper or aluminum, I usually see it on that tube. It doesn't seem to matter too much what type of tube it is. But it just kind of sits down there with all the leaves and kind of rots. And so there you see our bubbles. So that's it. That's the 10 problems. If you're looking for the ultrasonic leak detector, I have a link to this in the description section below, as well as a link to the anti-corrosive bubble leak detector. Also, make sure to check out our website where we have a bunch of free resources such as free quizzes, articles, quick tips, calculators, podcasts, and also check out our book, The Refrigerant Charging and Service Procedures for Air Conditioning. Their full outline and sample pages are at our website. We also have a 1,000-question workbook, and this is designed to test your knowledge, and it's a self-study guide, so it comes with an answer key. We also have quick reference polystyrene cards, so these can be used out in the field for charging and troubleshooting. All of our physical products are available over at Amazon.com and also at our website at AECServiceTech.com. Hope you enjoyed yourself. We'll see you next time at AEC Service Tech Channel.